Hi, this is Summer Todd. I'm doing my mystery channel tonight. I'll be discussing the sliders. And a lot of you might have not know what that's about, but we'll be talking about that phenomenon. And if you know anybody like that, or it might be yourself, and some things at Miami University, Oxford, Ohio. If we have a little time. Um, Seems like there's some weird stuff that goes on in that town and just at the university itself. Last time we discussed, we were here, we were discussing my daughter. So, Roger, you want I can start with that?
Yeah, if you want to. um,
Okay.
darker things is in chat too. So he says he's got some, or he's good with questions, and he's here to lend support. He says he can't speak,
Okay.
but because he's in a public space, but he can use the chat. So I left it open. So
All right.
uh,
We'll just start. So, are you ready? We're going to start.
yeah, go for it.
Last time we ended on the discussion of sliders, and my daughter, it appears to be one, and what the phenomena is. And you can say what you need to, Roger. I don't know a lot about it. I know you've read a little bit about it. Um, it's a phenomenon where, like, when you kind of get stressed out, that street lights go out, you mess up computers, you can't wear watches. Um, Electronics just seem to kind of go crazy, and also, like, I know my daughter light bulbs would just like burn out. So my daughter, I mean, I kind of noticed it when she was probably going through puberty, no boyfriends and all that. So I noticed, like, her light bulbs would just pop. And we lived in an old house, but before that, before she got to be like maybe 13 or 14, nothing like that happened. And it wasn't just in her room. It would be like when she would be upset, or like she'd walk under a street light. I know one night she was really mad about something, and the street light just kind of it popped, and went out. And electronics, she would do like I said, she was moving, and she had the 5 CD changers, back then in the day. That a lot of people don't have them now, but and she unplugged her stereo. We were sitting there talking, and she was like, "I'm really getting stressed out." And I was like, "Yeah, it'll be all right." So we were getting ready to move the stereo, and the CDs just started playing. And I was like, "Chantal, I thought you said you unplugged that." And she's like, "I did." So I walked over there, and it was unplugged. So I've never seen anything like that. Never. So it was really weird. I looked it up, and it fit her when I was reading about what the slider phenomena was. And at the time, I worked at in marketing department, and one of the professors overheard me telling somebody about it. And he came over, and I mean, he's just a real super super smart guy and really nice. Um, and it was surprised me. He said, "I can't wear watches." He said, "I got a box of watches." He said, "I just quit buying them." And he said, "I think it's real." He said, "Because it happens to me all the time." And he said, like, if I'm getting ready to do stuff on the computer and I get upset, he said, things just go haywire.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of weird. I don't know, Roger, if you know anybody like that, or
Well, darker things just said that he says he can't wear a watch to save his life. He says wasn't allowed to touch the stage lights or soundboard in theater production because he's into the theater and everything. And he was allowed to dress the set and lower the curtains.
yeah.
But then he
And
said, "I learned to wear a harness to work on PCs." But he says that it happens to him all the time. I've read about it, and it was a long time ago, back whenever I first started getting into this stuff with John. And
yeah.
I haven't heard too much about it, but I have heard of it. I've heard of power going out in street lights when people are walking down the street. They'll just start going out on them and things of
Yeah,
that nature.
and that's when I noticed it with my daughter. And there was a particular year, I think it was, when you first start dating, and you know how there's all that energy. There's a lot of energy there, a lot of stress. So I noticed it that year more than ever. Like I said, my son Austin was learning how to drive, and in the state of Ohio, I don't know if it's still like that, but you have to, as a parent or a guardian, you have to go and do so many hours with them, 50 hours in the car, and sign off on it.
Mm-hmm.
So Austin was, I'd take him out driving, and Chantel, my daughter, went with us one night, and she was getting a little nervous because he's a new driver. And she was like, this is kind of freaking me out. So we went around a corner, and there was a huge light on the side of this barn, and it just kind of it looked like it exploded almost. And it was so weird. And then, and Austin was going into a curve, and he's a new driver, and all of a sudden it's dark. So it freaked him out a little bit. And I was like, I thought, I told Chantel, I said, I think it's because you're stressed out. I said that light just did that. So we noticed it with her a lot, in high emotional times. But I also noticed it when I worked in office sometimes. This was really strange. I never felt like I was one, but if you have like a group of people and there's something going on with the computer, and you know how everybody kind of comes around sometimes and tries to help or fix it, the more energy that was there, like negative energy or stress, it just seemed like all kinds of weird stuff was happening. We just couldn't figure things out. It would be like we just need to all go to lunch or go away and do something else, and then come back after we calm down, and things maybe would be better. So I think there's a good bit of that with groups of people too. Or maybe there's one in the group you don't know about. I don't know, but I've seen that too, where like at the office, it's like everything just goes awry, and the more upset everybody gets, the worse it is.
I think you're giving like darker things the heebie-jeebies, because I think you hit it right on the nose when it comes to him. He's just typing up a storm. He said that.
Okay. I can see it now.
He went on to say more on there.
My son has the opposite trait. We call him the tech whisperer. If I short it out, he talks them back into working. Oh, wow. I didn't know you could do that. When I was young and my grandma died and I started sobbing, my mom believes I shattered every light bulb in our apartment without touching. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's something else.
Right.
See, I barely ever heard of this. Like,
well, I had never. I said I never looked at. I think when I was on a paranormal website where they had true ghost stories, and I think that might have been the first time I saw it. But then I linked it to Chantel, and but she's kind of different that way. And it's funny. She was born on January 13th, Friday the 13th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But and now that she's older, I don't know that she does it as much. I mean, if she does, she hasn't told me. But I know when she lived at home, there was a lot of stuff going on, and her computer and things like that too. I wanted to see if you wrote more stuff.
Yeah, Yep.
Okay, I can see darker things. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because Chantel my daughter did freak some people out a little bit. I think Austin more than anybody. He was like, this is kind of weird. Right. Yeah.
You said.
Oh, go on. I'm sorry.
You said that Austin turned into more of a techie person anyhow, didn't you?
I think just through his music, because he recorded a lot of stuff and did a lot of stuff on his own. Yeah. So he's better with that. But he's also said sometimes the more stressed you get, the weirder things can get in the studio. So I think everybody's got a little bit of it, but I think with her, her energy was real high. But especially, when girls are going through
Well,
puberty too.
I'm just saying, I mean, he's Mr. Techie, and all of a sudden, sister's coming around screwing
Oh
stuff up.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's very
I
true.
could understand that perfectly, man.
Right. But like I said, she's one that kind of blocks it out because it kind of scares her. I know she's very psychic too. She has psychic dreams, and it just makes her uncomfortable. But but anyway, back the professor that came into the office and was talking to me. I mean, he's just like Mr. Average Joe. Just you wouldn't think, and he was like really open to it because he said everybody kind of freaks out about how he does stuff around computers and things like that. Of course, that's been years ago, but yeah. So
Something else.
um, it's pretty scary.
Now,
Yeah.
darker things went on to say, then one time when I got my first leading role, final dress rehearsal. I was emotional and belting out my solo, and the spotlight blew out. So he caused the spotlight to blow out.
Yeah.
See that? That makes me kind of wonder how many people actually have this happen to them. Because I had no idea that darker things had this going on.
Well, but they say some people have it in vehicles, especially now that they're more electronic. And what is really funny to me is, like I said, I didn't think I had it, but when was it? It was probably back in maybe the end of October. My boyfriend was in the hospital because he's a little older than me, and my car was doing weird stuff. Like I thought the battery on the key fob was messed up, but I had just replaced it, and it was just doing strange things. And it was all the weekend that he was in the hospital, and I didn't really feel like I was real upset about it because I don't think we knew it wasn't nothing serious, or we didn't think it was. But my car was doing this stupid stuff. So finally I took it out in the driveway and messed with the key fob a little, and it didn't do it after that anymore. But it was like it would act like I was trying to start it and it would say goodbye. And you know how it does when you shut it off.
Yeah.
My God, not only is he in the hospital now, my car is screwing up. What is happening with my car? And it was doing that. I don't know. It was weird. And it's not old. It's about 5 years old. It's a newer car. So that was strange. Another thing that happened that weekend, but I don't know that I have anything to do with that. But shooting stars.
Uh-huh.
Well, I was getting ready to go to bed. I was pretty freaked out that night because he had just went in the hospital. I come home and I was turning off the lights and I saw this big green flash. And I was like, oh my gosh, what was that? So I looked up. I thought, well, it looked like a shooting star. So I looked it up, and there actually is it's like a meteorite star. It's green.
Uh-huh.
And that happened that night. It was really strange. It was like all this stuff was going on. So I don't know. Maybe there was something going on in the atmosphere that weekend.
Could
But,
have been.
I don't know. Maybe I have it too in certain situations. I'm not sure.
Well, it makes sense because she is your daughter. You know what I mean? If
Yeah, like, they say it runs in families. Oh, and I don't know if you got the article I sent to you, but that was one in the very beginning of it. It said that it usually does run in families.
so, yeah. I mean, you got to think about stuff like that, and like even with darker things, he said that his son does the complete opposite. Which, I mean, that's his son, and you and your daughter. It makes perfect sense to me when you think about it.
Yeah. Oh, he's saying here his mom would actually start the car before having me get in sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, I might swear down that I caused problems with the starter. and my mom switched to automatic transmission because my cousin and her both felt I was messing up the stick shift. And if what you say is true, most of us have other traits. I have psychic dreams and can astral travel. Well, that's interesting that he has psychic dreams. Yes, because my daughter does too. Yeah, she definitely does.
Now, that's another thing too. Just so it's clear to you, darker things. Freaking, we did an interview before, and there's a lot more that's going on concerning Summer's daughter. Like, it's not just the sliders issue, and like your sister too. I know there's some things going on there with your sister as well. So
Right. Yeah, with my daughter, and she's very psychic. And like I said too, sometimes I would be trying to call her when after she was in college. I would try to call her and I couldn't get it. It's like her phone was busy, and then she eventually get a hold of me and she said, "How come your phone was busy?" And I'd be like, "Because I was trying to call you." So we got this psychic thing going on anyway. But I think that kind of maybe just could be mothers and their kids, or fathers and their kids. You know how that goes. But yeah, so that's interesting.
yeah,
Now, my son's like that too, though. I think about some stuff. He's not, I don't see him affecting electronics because he usually stays pretty cool and calm. You know, he's got more of a, he's not as emotional as she was. But psychically, he's done some stuff too. Like, my husband and I went out to a Mexican restaurant and we were eating in Austin. And before we left, and Austin had been saying this for a couple weeks. We lived out in the country and people were always dropping off stray dogs. But he was very specific. He was like, well, there's going to be a black dog show up here and he's going to be hurt and we're probably going to keep him. And I was like, well, first off, we already had 2 dogs. I was like, well, no, we don't want any more dogs. And I don't know where you're getting at. He said, I don't know. I just got a feeling. So my husband and I went out to eat. And then I remember Austin texting me and saying, hey, there's this dog here. And our other dog's been barking at him. He said, so I'm afraid to let him out. He said, so when you guys get home, watch when you open the door and watch when you get out of the car. He said, because I can't see what kind of dog he is because it was dark. He said, so he might be mean. I don't know. So we got home and we get out of the car, and this dog was exactly like Austin was said it was. It was a dark. It was the one I just lost, Leo. He was a tripod. His back leg was busted. We didn't even know if we were going to keep him because the vet was like, you can always put this dog down. He was only about 9 months old, but we decided just I don't know how his back leg got hurt, but we amputated it, and he was just like a 4-legged dog until he lived to be almost 16. So, but he was so very specific about that. It was so weird. We did end up keeping him because, when I took this dog to the vet, he's a young dog, and our other dog was getting so old, and I was like, well, I'm gonna be sad when he leaves, so we want to keep him, so we kept him. But it was so strange that he knew that. And I, this dog wasn't out there hanging around for 2 weeks because we would have seen him. So it wasn't like Austin knew. I just don't know how he does that sometimes. Another time, we stopped. I think he was smaller then. We went out, my husband and I, and then I stopped at a, convenience store or something. He was getting smokes or cigarettes or something. And I got Austin's a candy bar. And it was like a Milky Way. You know how moms do. So anyway, I came home and we were sitting in the living room. It had been a couple hours we'd been home. And he came in to the living room and he's like, hey, Mom, why don't you give me that candy bar you got? I said, what are you talking about? He said, I know you got me something. And I didn't do this all the time. Mm-hmm. This was just a random thing I did. Every now and then I would. He said, I bet you, did you give me a Milky Way candy bar? That's what he said. I was like, So he does stuff like that. I think, he probably thought, oh, they might have stopped on the way home, from eating, and maybe she did get me one. But he was right on exactly what kind of candy bar it was. So there must be something going on with our family. Yeah, I
Now,
would say.
now, Darker says that he sees auras. Do you have anybody in your family that sees auras?
The orbs?
Auras, like people's auras
Auras. Okay.
that
Auras.
are around your body, like you can see.
Austin kind of says that he can see them sometimes. I'm reading it. I was reading about what Darker Thing said. Okay. Oh.
He says a lot of stuff. Like you were just talking about premonitions. Whenever Austin does that or did that with a candy bar, that was actually a premonition. Like he was able to see it. So you got that covered. He says that I get premonitions of death. Austin gets premonitions of candy bars, and which that's kind of cool. If I had to have a premonition, I'd rather have a premonition of candy bars any day. So
Yeah, but I don't remember if you watched the interview or you were part of it with John when I talked about I have had
yeah,
when he's talking about dark things, premonitions of death.
yeah.
It was just a short little period of time, it seemed like, and I don't know what was going on with me. It didn't, why I did it just for a short period of time. And like I said, when my husband was sick, I really didn't have premonitions of him being that sick. So I with him, it's like I just was maybe too close to it. I don't know. But like I said, there were two neighbors, that passed away that I kind of had premonitions about. So that's strange.
That is good. He says that he had a premonition about Reagan getting shot, and then another one about the space shuttle blowing up. I don't know if you remember when the space shuttle blew up. It was back when we were young.
Actually, wasn't it this week? It was like the 28th. It's coming up, the 28th.
Yeah.
I remember it very well because I was actually pregnant with Austin, and I came home from work to get lunch that day. And this is how different things were with the media back then. We didn't have a TV. We didn't have cell phones. And so I came home at lunch to watch it on TV because there were people at the office saying, well, they didn't die. And I was like, well, how can that be? But nobody really knew until later because it was different back then, Now we know right away. So I went home at lunch to get something to eat, and I watched it, and it was horrific, And then I went back to the office, and I guess a few other people went to lunch and found some TVs too, and they were like, oh, yeah, this is awful. They did die. So, yeah, I do remember that. But to have a premonition about it, wow.
That's something else.
That's really weird.
Well, it's kind of goes into what me and Michael Paul and John was talking about too, about the whole synchronicity thing, because it's weird that I've had this conversation with you, I've done the interview with you, and then I'm on your show, and then I suggest Darker Things comes on, he starts saying this stuff right here in chat. It's kind of like things are coming together. He needs to get out of that public area sometime and come on your show. That way you guys can have a conversation. You know what I mean? I think that'd be awesome. Like, this is the first time I've ever heard him speak about it. Me and him usually do games, and well, not games. He doesn't
really?
do. Me and him do he does murder cases, like murder mysteries.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. This is the first time I've heard of it. It's interesting.
Wow. Yeah. My daughter, I don't know when my husband was sick though. She did go home and tell her then husband. They're divorced now. But she told him, she said, I don't know what's wrong with him, but I think he's going to die. And her husband was like, oh, that's foolish. She said, he's been sick before. Um, it's no big deal. It's just something, they'll find out whatever it is. And because at that time he just been, went in for a little breathing issues, and he was a smoker, so,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I think she kind of saw that, but she was kind of blocking it. So, yeah. That's interesting. I guess sliders then probably are maybe have a little more psychic energy too, right? From what Darker Things is talking about here.
Well,
Yeah.
what you both have to understand though too is technology is really connected to paranormal. Like the first time somebody claimed in the United States that they were talking to ghosts and they were spiritualists, it was
Yeah.
the tapping sound. They swore they heard tapping, and
Yeah.
and then the telegraph was coming out during that time period, and like
Right.
to this day, people connect televisions and radios and stuff like that to paranormal events other than what you're talking about, like actual spirits and stuff like that. So they kind of go hand in hand, is my point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there could be more going on there.
Right. Right. Um, but when you look at like Darker Things is talking about uh, some of these events, and when you look at like the Titanic, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how many people said that they didn't want to get on that ship, and some didn't, and others did, but they, passed, they died. A lot of people just don't listen to those things, but they should sometimes. There was even Captain Smith that was on the Titanic. He had written a letter, I think, to his sister, and he told her, he said, I'm getting ready to retire and I can't wait. And he said, but I don't feel good about the Titanic. He said, there's just something off about the ship, but, I can't, and that's what he said. I can't wait to retire. So that was kind of odd. Yeah. So I think we ignore it. But in the Darker Things, he hates to share. Well, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just really surprised to hear it. I mean, it's cool that he brought it up, and it's if he wants to come on anytime with me or he wants to come on with you, freaking, he's more. I mean, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
I
I understand him not wanting to share things though, because there's a lot of people I don't share some of the stuff that has happened with me with, because they just don't get it. They just don't.
exactly.
So, oh, he's saying playing with the Ouija board. Oh yeah. My daughter and son and I played it, and it seemed like when Chantel was playing it, all kinds of weird stuff was happening. So we just quit playing it because, at first I was one of these moms that thought it was kind of just a game, but then we didn't want to play it anymore.
Mhm.
It just seems like the one week we played it, all kinds of stuff happened. We got robbed that week. I don't. Our Christmas tree fell over, which we've always had cats. This was like for 10 years, and all of a sudden, like, you decorate the tree and the cat tears the tree down. There was just all kinds of stuff going on. And I was like, we're not playing this anymore. So, yeah. Actually, when I moved out of the old house we lived in, the old farmhouse, I left the board out there because they always say you can't get rid of them. And I was like, I'm not going to try to put it in a trash can or burn it and have something bad happen. So I'm just going to leave it here. I left it in this cupboard. So those people, when they moved in, they were probably like, oh my goodness, what's this? But, just in case, I didn't want anything to do with it. So.
I think the most interesting story I've ever heard when it came to Ouija boards and demonic stuff was the Dybbuk box. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, I watched a show about that where and then what did they end up doing with that box though? Now I'm trying to think, it's been a while since I watched it.
The
Did they
man,
just end up
the man
putting it
who,
away?
the man who actually brought it to the public. The reason why it got so popular is he tried to sell it on eBay,
Right.
and he ended up selling it twice. And the first one was to a college student who later on frickin' brought it back and dumped it off on his front porch.
I remember, I think I do remember that. So but in the end, didn't he bury it or something?
He took it to his back storage shed in his yard, and he put it in there, locked it up, and he said that it kept causing crap loads of noises and stuff and keeping him up all night
Oh my God.
and just crazy stuff like that. And then his sister, I believe it was, his sister and his sister's husband came to visit, and they kept having this freaking horrible dream about cat piss, smelling cat piss, urine, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and then a hag was in the dream, and he had never told them about what was happening to him, where he was getting abused by this hag in his dreams. He'd wake up with scratches and everything all over his body,
Oh my God.
and he kept it quiet. And then she, in the middle of breakfast, mentioned this bad dream that she had had, and then started talking about it, and he heard it and just literally froze. And both of them did, because him and his brother-in-law had the same dreams, and she was sitting there telling them point by point everything that was going on inside of their dreams. Just weird, just weird stuff. Since
Yeah, I think there was something, I can't quite remember it, but it seems like there's been a couple times, I don't know if it's with families, that we have had similar dreams, all of us, and I couldn't figure that out. Do you think, like, when you're asleep, like your mind kind of, I don't know.
I believe I believe in dream interpretation. I don't even really think that that's paranormal, to be honest with you. I mean, a lot of people a lot of people get real deep into it, but like Carl Jung,
Yeah.
he was really, really good at dream interpretation. Everything has a representation.
Well, I'm mad. You
know,
know, I do. I think your dreams definitely are your subconscious mind, but I think when people are sleeping like close proximity with each other, that sometimes they have similar dreams. It's like they can pick up each other's thoughts. Maybe it's because you're in a relaxed state.
well,
Because
see,
I've actually
we
read where people have the same type dreams. Go on. I'm sorry.
we have a God conscious, is what Carl Jung refers to it as. Like, there's a God conscious, which is basically this universal consciousness that you always hear everybody talking about. It's what Carl Jung refers to as the God conscious, and that's a huge gathering of information, like the consciousness. All right, and we're all connected to it. When we're born, we get a little piece of it, and we're connected to this God conscious. So whenever
Okay.
whenever you're having like these similar memories and stuff like that, you're tapping into that consciousness. You see what I mean?
Or like when maybe you think, like you think, like if I'm talking to my boyfriend, sometimes I'll know what he's going to talk about, or sometimes
Right.
I know what he's going to say. Yeah, you know, darker things. I don't know if you said that. He said shared dreams is like a collective consciousness, super connected. Yeah.
Yes.
So okay, I
Yeah.
see that.
And,
Wow, he's talking about the word, how he wouldn't burn it, and yeah, they say not to burn them. Um, I don't think the boards are really the problem. I think it's just what you bring in with them. you know.
I watched the movies. That's about as close as I got to Witchboard, and
The Yeah.
it scared the crap out of me when I was 12 years old, and I never touched it. I never touched one of them. That movie is the most beneficial movie for little kids that you can watch
What
because
was it?
it's called Witchboard.
Oh, I've never heard of that one.
Now, if you watch that and you're under 12, you'll never touch a Ouija board. You'll never touch one.
Well, isn't that what The Exorcist started with, wasn't it? Was the board. Yeah.
Well,
That was a pretty scary movie at the time.
the Witchboard, man, is well. I'm not going to be a spoiler. I mean, if you get a chance, watch the movie. It's really good.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, he's talking about Witchboard. Watch. Yeah. Yeah. The okay. Yeah. It's I do believe it runs in families, and I also think with my daughter, on my husband's side, his aunt said that I think it was her aunt. So I don't know if that would be my husband's great aunt or something, but she said that she had psychic abilities. So there's some on his side of the family too, and I know there is on my side of the family. There's weird stuff. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah. But the slider thing, I think the only reason Austin doesn't have it is he's just not as emotional. He keeps his emotions very, he tries to keep himself pretty calm.
Mm-hmm.
So, but, she's very much more emotional. So.
Yeah.
Oh, he's talking about Indian shamanism.
And see, that's something that you guys have in connection too, because Austin was talking about you guys have Indian heritage, don't you?
His dad's grandmother. Yeah, I think she was Cherokee or something. Yeah. So that could be where some of it comes in. That's interesting. So, really back to the slider thing. So there seems to be some. Seems like you're got the psychic and the dreams that come true with it too. I didn't know that part of it.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's interesting. It is interesting how, like, sorry, because we were talking in your interview with me about how there could be more involved with your family because of what you said about your sister and then about you. Then you said you said we were going to discuss this because of what I'd mentioned, and it could be more involved there too. And I really believe that maybe there's a lineage of it because we were talking about your mom and what she had seen in Oxford. And then it comes down to what's going on with you guys, and then to your daughter and your son.
Yeah, it's interesting. She just had a little boy, so I wonder if he'll have it. His name's Denver, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see with her kids what they're going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. Yeah, but I don't know. I was looking at what else he wrote.
He's got a lot of stuff there. He said he said on his Ouija board that the Ouija board spelled Satan backwards. And he was confounded. He asked him what the name of the spirit was, or who was the one that was. Who controlled the board, and it spelled Satan backwards.
Wow. Okay.
He went on to say that the reflection of it was in a mirror, I guess it was.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm seeing it. Yeah. Back to where you can see death and stuff and auras. There was a lady I was working with, and I think, she wasn't real healthy, but I kept feeling something around her, and I really couldn't see anything. But it was so funny. Another lady that worked with her said that she thought that this lady was something was going to happen to her, that she just felt something, and I didn't tell her that I had felt the same way. So this lady was actually, it was a younger girl, and she got really sick one day, and she had to go to the hospital. She was pretty heavy, and she was almost in a diabetic coma. She was having trouble seeing. I mean, it was bad, and she almost died. And I think that both me and this other lady that I worked with, we saw, I guess maybe we felt it, but we just didn't see it. You know, the aura around her was bad, or we felt it maybe more than saw it. So I do feel that sometimes with people. Maybe if you study it a little, you can hone in on that and learn how to do it. I'm not sure, you know. But have you ever been around a person that you just kind of knew was sick, but they didn't know it and you didn't know it? I have. You know?
Oh, for me, I usually I can tell like symptoms, and that's about it. I don't like get
You don't get like a feeling from looking at
yeah.
them. And I think back when my two neighbors, well, the one I really didn't see that much, but the one that came down to my house and I thought was going to die, I think it might be in my subconscious mind, but I must have seen or felt something around him to think that he was going to pass away, and he did. So, yeah, it's weird. It's like you can see it and you know it's there, but you can't. And there was a psychic. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name's Phil Jordan.
Gil Jordan.
He, yeah, he's. I don't even know if he's alive now. Uh, he'd be pretty old now, but back in the '90s, I helped find a missing child, I think. But I was reading a book by him, and he said that your subconscious mind knows before you know. He said, like, he knew this girl was at a party, and she just all of a sudden she got really depressed. She was really depressed, and she couldn't figure it out. She was fine when she got there, and it was a couple hours later she found out her brother had been killed in a car wreck or something. So he said she knew in her mind before she actually knew. So he believes that a lot of things ahead of time. Um, but it could be too that maybe we do see something like auras, but we don't really recognize it. We know something's different. I don't know about that. Oh, he's reading his thing again. Okay.
That's kind of freaky, that story right there. He said that I haven't been the same since fourth grade. We moved into an apartment, and I kept seeing blood in the toilet.
I see that.
He kept having night terrors. One night, I kicked and screamed and woke up kicking and saw one of those bum clowns dissipating into thin air above me. 2 days later, detectives came by and told my mom that we were not supposed to be in the apartment, that a child molester who lured kids into the apartment as a clown, I guess, lived there. He had lived there, and one of the dads murdered him and put him in the bathtub and cut off his manhood and put it in the toilet. Talk about spooked. Brown aura means death to me. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Was,
okay. Wow. That's crazy, isn't it? That's just scary.
Fourth grade. I don't know if I could handle that. That would really mess with my head.
Yeah, I've read about people who have psychic dreams and things like that. He's talking about now.
Yeah, auras.
Yeah.
Blue
Or
aura.
yeah. Yeah.
Now see, we
Now
need.
see how he says like green auras are usually health. I feel like if I see somebody, sometimes I feel like something's off about them. So I'm not actually seeing, maybe there is a brown aura around them, but it's just like maybe I'm just not touching base with it, but it's there in my subconscious. It's
Yeah.
something.
Well, see,
Yeah.
you're having the feelings and the emotions, and
Yeah.
he's actually seeing auras.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I
That's
mean?
what Phil Jordan, this psychic, would do. He said he could actually see them. And
Yeah.
at that party, I do believe it goes back to that party with that girl. He did see what, I forget what he said her aura was, but he knew that there was, something going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 Because like,
Wow.
just from when I talk to you, you're always talking about emotions and stuff and how, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
like, these guys are talking about actually seeing an aura around the body.
And well, we're made up differently. Men and women are just different. They're not as in touch, I don't think, with emotions, or maybe they've been taught not to be. So
Well,
women are more um
we, we, we've been talking about the masculine and the feminine too, and that would probably play a big deal into it too, because like um, you know, being more in touch with yourself in on the inside rather than on the outside.
right.
You know what I
I'm
mean?
plugging it. Yeah, I'm plugging in my iPad because it's not charging. What's going on with that? I wonder why it's not charging. Oh my goodness. Let me plug it in again here. Sure. Okay.
Yeah, he said Darker Thing says that the wife is the man and I'm the woman in our relationship. She is the thinker and I'm the feeler.
Okay. Okay. That's funny. Okay. I'm trying to make sure this iPad's charging. I guess it's got the little green dot up there, so I think it is.
Okay.
I don't know how to check that. I think it is. Hopefully, oops. Okay.
Now, I think Darker Things has had an emotion. He needs to come on to one of your episodes so that we can set something up and have a conversation with him. What do you think, Summer?
Yeah, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
We can get something organized between the two of you to where you can sit and talk about this stuff. Because I mean, and I'm serious. I didn't expect any of that. It's like this is the first time I've heard him even talk openly about it. This is good stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying to make sure this thing's charging because it's on 10. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. Okay, now it's charging. Why was it not charging? Oh my goodness. Oh, technology. Oh, it's on.
I'm glad you trust me.
Sorry, hold on. Okay. Well, it should have, there it goes. It'll have that little flashing thing on the battery if it's charging, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for some reason, I guess the switch was off on this wall, but I thought I had it charging. I'm sorry. Okay, we'll get back to that. What were you saying? I'm sorry.
I was talking to Doug, Darker Things, while you were gone. He said that he's telling this stuff because he trusts me. And I was like, I'm glad you trust me.
I appreciate he trusts us, and he doesn't have to hold back because, and there's a lot of people I don't talk to about this stuff because they think I'm crazy. So
yeah, and this place right here in I don't know if I know Darker Things has been around John for quite a while, so I don't know how much he really knows. But like, this is one of those places where you don't have to feel insecure about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you want to speak about it, you're more than welcome to. And we just need to get you on the show.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's gonna leave. He said his charger's at 11. That's weird.
Yeah.
Mine wasn't, but I think it's charging. Oh goodness.
It's probably a good idea too. We've got 51 minutes, so
Okay. Well, and good night, Darker Things. He's leaving, but okay. Yeah, I'd love to talk more with him about this stuff. Yeah, John's a great person to talk to. He talks about John. Yeah, you guys are both great to bounce things off of. So
we'll set it up. We'll try to set something up with you and him. Maybe do it in chat and see what comes up on Discord and get something going to where he can come onto your show and you can.
Yeah, it's really interesting that I touched base with somebody that has so much stuff going on and how it ties into some other things too that I never didn't realize that phenomena tied into the psychic dreams and things like that.
You know what you got, don't you?
Huh?
You know what you got, don't you?
No.
You got your first guest.
Yeah. Right.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
That is
Even
pretty.
Though he didn't have a lot to say, even though he didn't talk outwardly, he was like texting. Yeah.
Yeah. It got him excited when you started talking about the slider stuff. He just, he went bam. Wow.
Right, and I learned a lot about it though because all those things kind of tie into the psychic dreams and premonitions. I just didn't realize that,
But
so,
even in the conversation that we were having, you're like, hold on, she does do this and she does do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like things were starting to click. Like.
Right. Oh,
it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it is. Well, do you want to talk a little bit? We almost, gosh, it's been an hour almost. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about Miami University and that too, or?
I think we can hold off on that one because
okay.
I would really like to get Darker Things in Austin in here and kind of because he's got some really good stuff that I think would be cool. He was talking about it possibly being cursed, and he's done some research. He says he didn't do a lot, but he's got some of it, and I'd love to hear what he came up with.
Yeah, and he's got, I don't know, his memory's just super. He remembers things that I forget totally. He's just one of those people. He just retains things. So, he remembers a lot of things from the history of that town and things like that. So, yeah.
We can get that going on. I still want to do it, but it's like...
Yeah, that's fine.
I still want to do it. It's just like set up a good time to do it because I want to hear about that. That's probably the most interesting story I've heard in a while, to be honest with you. And I've gone over this paranormal stuff left and right, and that's a really interesting town. That really is.
I used to think it was just because I worked there that I always heard that a lot of things happened and it was a college town. But it's such a tiny town, So now that I look back on what you said, there's just a lot of it's really bad. Okay. And even when there wasn't as many students as there is today, there was a lot of things going on up there.
Just so you know, I live maybe 20 miles away from SIU. Okay.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to college towns, I know generally what's going on in Carbondale, okay?
Yeah.
And the thing is like freaking the stuff going on there is just weird. I mean, like
What,
that.
in Oxford?
Yeah, that is just weird. I mean,
Yeah.
and then the way the police handled the situation on top of it, it makes it even. I think that's really the nail on the coffin for me. You know what I mean? Like they,
Yeah.
like why do they do that? Why do they try to make it? Well, this is a small town and we're not used to this kind of
I don't know.
behavior.
But
I mean,
isn't that the same way, kind of? What was it called? Is it Moscow, Idaho, where the students were killed? The police, they tore down the house that happened in already, and they're not even done with the trial. And I think that was a mistake.
yeah,
And the families were mad about that. You know about that case, don't you? I think it happened around last year or the year before, around Thanksgiving. Um, there was 4 people actually killed.
hmm,
Yeah, murdered.
yeah.
Um,
They're
but
they're going
I
over it on the news now.
town thing, I think it's that college town thing, because they said they didn't want the students to feel uncomfortable with this house still standing, but the parents of these victims are like, well, what if there's some evidence there when there could be?
Hmm.
They-
Well, the thing of it is too is not just that, but like it's the resistance. Like the 2 females I was telling you that did their podcast, okay, and they were journalists doing an investigative report on this girl's murder, and the police department refused to freaking help them in any way. They finally had
oh, go on. I'm sorry.
they finally had to do a podcast and make it to where it was known nationally before the police department would even take it out of the cold case and start a new investigation, because they had it dead set that that guy was the one who murdered him or murdered
I
her.
I still feel like, I mean, I thought it was the maintenance man, but now seeing, like, talking to you about how the police and stuff have acted with that, I'm thinking maybe it was the one guy's friend that was her boss over at the Red Ox. Pat Bear was the police officer. He was best friends with her boss, and
Mhm.
her boss was like, "Oh, I've been in her house. This is terrible." But then all of her friends were saying, first off, she had a boyfriend, and he creeped her out, and she never would have invited him into her house for a
Mhm.
drink. So, and maybe there's a cover up there. And then some of the evidence was lost, wasn't it? So they don't even think the cold case will ever. They don't think it will ever be solved
Yeah.
now.
Well, they've
And
got it
how-
dead. They've got it
they,
dead set that it was him who did it. They
well, they badgered him to death. They almost. I mean, they just. I've never heard of anybody doing that like they did him. It was terrible.
yeah. Well,
So
we better hold the secrets for the
yeah,
episode, not give away all the
right,
goodies.
right. But so
So
yeah, back to the Slider thing. I don't know. Maybe I should talk to John about that. But he didn't really know what they were either. Because he's a healer. He says he's a healer. And they have a different kind of energy too.
yeah,
But still, he didn't know much about that phenomenon. I guess a lot of people don't.
now I can look at the old article that I found way back when, and like I said, there aren't too many things that bring it up, but it's very distinctive. I mean, I remember it to this day about people acting or appliances and stuff like that reacting to humans, and
Yeah.
I've seen that, but I can look into it and see what I can come up with too on that. But
I guess it can be kind of dangerous if if you do it with vehicles and stuff.
oh yeah,
Because more
most
electronic
definitely.
with vehicles. So that's kind of strange. Yeah, but
So you want to wrap it up, and then we'll come back to it later, and then maybe we can have freaking Darker Things in Austin on here talking about it too.
Yeah,
And
that'd be real interesting. Yeah, in Austin, I can look up some more of the history about the fires. The funny thing I thought about the fires was the one that happened in the 70s. I couldn't hardly find any news stories about it. Actually, I couldn't. The only thing I came across was some guy that's a firefighter on Facebook had it on there.
yeah,
So,
see,
you
and
know, that's
see that comes back to what I was talking about. I just it's just something fishy there. It's just really weird. That's the only way I can say it. I mean, I wish I could come up with a cool word that isn't the word weird, but it's weird. You know what I mean?
yeah. And when you talk about fires of that caliber, I know in the 70s we didn't have the internet and all that stuff, but I remember it as I was about 11 years old. I remember my dad watching it on the news. It's a big
Mm-hmm.
deal. It's a small town. This firefighter getting killed and a couple of them getting hurt. And then I go out to look for it and I can't find any stories. But there's been a fire, like there was that big supper club fire in Kentucky. That was in the 70s where there's books out and everything about that. So
Mm-hmm.
why is it like all of a sudden it's hush hush up there? It's a strange town. Really, I mean, in Kentucky, do you remember that was Beverly Hills Supper Club fire? That's one of, like, what, the second or maybe one of the biggest supper club fires there has ever been, or is up there with one?
Mm-hmm.
No. So, fires like that, I mean, anything like that where somebody's killed, especially, well, this was a fire chief that was killed. So I think they just like to, act like nothing ever goes on up there.
No,
I don't know.
that before we end it and everything, I wanted to find out. Do you want to do this on Saturdays or Sundays?
Trying to think. Saturdays are usually good, but maybe Sundays will work better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know we were talking about that the other day. I know I got it mixed up and everything, so that was on me. But like,
Um.
it's up to you.
Yeah, but maybe we can leave it for Saturdays now and see how it goes. I know. Like if I have something to do, I think Austin's going to kind of take over and do the subject, or do a subject. So I think it'll work. I think it might work better for him too.
Okay.
Now we'll just stay with this and see how it goes. Yeah.
Okay.
Um.
Either way, too, we could do it interchangeable. If you guys aren't available on Saturday, we could do it on Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday and
I'm
Saturday.
gonna do a show with John. I think this coming week. I got to tell him. But yeah, and it's about kind of synchronicities and things like that.
Oh,
But I could do that on here as well. Yeah.
you're gonna love that. They're fired up on the synchronicity thing, man. You're gonna love
Well, I can't believe some of the stuff that's happened to me surrounding dates and things. So yeah, it's an interesting topic. Yeah.
it. Okay. Well,
And again, to my daughter, I just remembered some stuff with her. So yeah.
you better end this before you start giving out more information. So, this
Well, anyway, okay. Well, right. Okay, let's this is it. And so we'll just get together later and talk about we'll probably talk about Miami University and the stranger things that go on up there. Right?
sounds good.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, have a good night.
You too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.